Iceland, a country like no other, emerged in the center of the North Atlantic before it was settled over 1,000 years ago by Norwegian Vikings. Imagine 300,000 people living on a territory as big as France. The island itself has been shaped by volcanic and geothermal forces active now as ever, making it a site of incomparable majesty. Among this country's natural treasures, Österland, also known as the Eastern region, is a huge valley formed over millennia by glacial erosion and through which the Lagarfjlot River meanders, fed directly from Iceland's largest glacier. The central part of the river widens at the city of Eyjólfsstaðir, forming the lake called Logurin, or Lagarfjlot, which at first glance has the appearance of being just another tranquil body of water. However, this large lake with a depth of over 100 meters or 320 feet hides a mystery. For several centuries, a giant worm known as Lagarfjlotsormurin was sighted in the lake. Living witnesses number in the dozens. Recently, one of them even managed to capture images of the creature.
Já, maður alltaf trúað að ormurinn væri hérna, Lagarfjlotsormurin væri í fljótinu.
They saw something move up and down, humps or something.
People have been seeing these kinds of humps coming up from the lake surface. Well, we have the records of some kind of a monster living in the lake. The first record is from 1345.
Many hundred years ago, the worm was believed to be very dangerous.
I think there's a creature there. There's something alive down there.
I always have a camera in my car when I travel around the lake if I would see something.
I would describe it as something very huge. It's enormous in size. I mean, every child here in the area can tell you the story about the monster.
I think the Lagarfjlotsormurin is really big, ugly, and scary.
Einhver hreyfingu þarna í ánni. Þetta svona hlikkaðist til og frá eins og snákur.
Ég var bara að fara til Bjarndísar, bara í heimsókn, því það er langt síðan ég kom hingað og við varum bara að spjalla eitthvað, við vorum eitthvað í símanum og svo sást þetta bara og ég tók þetta upp.
En kannski alvöru. Þannig að svo ferum við að horfa á þetta og svona getum ekki áttað okkur á því almennilega hvað þetta er. Þannig og...
The worm killed by poison or fired people.
Sko, þegar ég sá þetta, þá trúði ég svona meira á.
Do you believe in the worm? Yes, absolutely. I believe in it. I know it exists.
The Lagarfjlotsormurin lives in Lagarfjlot, the third largest lake in Iceland, spanning 53 square kilometers or 20 square miles. Filled with sediment from the glacier that feeds it, the lake's gray color and opacity have helped keep this mystery alive.
This lake is, it's deep. It goes down to at least 112 meters. The glacier dug it down in the ice age.
It has a very, very much volume because, well, the surface of the lake, the altitude of the surface of the lake is about 20 meters above sea level. But the bottom of the lake, well, where it is deepest, it is more than 112 meters deep. We have this 80 meters below sea level of the lake, and that is rather unusual in Iceland.
It's not transparent, as many lakes are, because it's glacier water. So I believe there is a creature down there.
And on the bottom of the lake, also because of the glacier river that runs into it, we have a very thick layer of clay, of sediment from the centuries that the glacier rivers have, washed into it.
When glaciers melt in Icelandic mountains, rivers filled with sediment carve a path to the ocean. Most of these rivers are not navigable because of the violence of the current, but there are exceptions like the Lagarfjlot. Among the residents who live around the erosion basin, the famous Lagarfjlot Lake, everyone knows at least one person who has seen the terrible creature emerge from its surface.
The people that has told me the story of the worm are people I trust very much. My neighbor, Valdemar, he's a very down-to-earth person, and he was working with several other men putting a telephone cable in the lake, and they had a lot of trouble with the worm because he bit the telephone cable.
Það var aldrei neitt vafi á því eftir við sáum hvers konar meðferð kapallinn hafi fengið að sko þarna var eitthvað óhemju sterkt, mikið afl sem gat gert þetta. Kapallinn var, eins og ég sagði, svo sterkur, sérstaklega framleiddur. Þetta kallað armering, þessi styrking utan á kaplanum. Og ekkert venjulegt afl getur gert þetta. Þetta eins og að vefja upp járnkarla að gera þetta. Svoleiðis að við urðum bæði hræddir og hissa þegar við áttuðum á okkur á því hvað við höfðum gert. Ekki neinum vafa það að þarna var sá gamli á ferðinni.
It was totally unexplainable how it could be twisted so much because it was so strong that they thought it was impossible, and the technicians there, they just had no explanation of it other than this very good explanation that it had been in contact with the monster. And the monster didn't like this cable to go over its back.
Very young by the standards of Earth's timeline, Iceland emerged from the bottom of the Atlantic some 20 million years ago as the result of volcanic eruptions. Inhabitants live under a constant threat from 130 active volcanoes, which may explain why this state is the least densely populated country in Europe, with only 3 people per square kilometer.
We are here in Iceland, actually in the eastern part of Iceland, or East Iceland as we call it. And this part of Iceland is renowned for a very good weather. Most Icelanders know it for that they want to come here for summer holidays because of the good weather. We are here in the valley of Fljótsdalur, or the Fljótsdalur Valley, and through it runs this river, which is a glacier river coming from all the way from the Vatnajökull glacier. And so that runs here into the river, and the rivers run into the lake Lagarfjlot, which is actually a river all the way to the ocean, but, well, a river lake. Well, we have the records of some kind of a monster living in the lake. The first record is from 1345. So it's quite old, and it's mentioned actually in all the annals or the chronicles of Iceland through the centuries. Some sightings every century.
We have very well-written annals through the centuries, and there you can read about the worm that has been seen various places in the lake, and by whom and when and how.
The presence of religious missions allowed Iceland to keep a fairly accurate record of its history. Icelandic annals make explicit mention of the appearance of a monster here and there over the centuries, beginning in 1345.
I was surprised to see how much was written about it. We have a lot of descriptions of old parishes in Iceland that also tell us about the life of the people and the nature. And even there, you have several times stories about the worm.
Mainly, well, people at least tried to connect it with that, okay, if the monster was seen here at the Lake Lagarfjlot, people could expect something very dreadful to happen in the nature. Some eruptions, earthquakes, or a very hard winter following. So it was this belief that it occurred only when something dreadful was going to happen. We have a tale about the origin of this monster. This beautiful little tale about the girl and the gold ring.
The legend about the Lagarfjlotsormur is very, very old, and it's in every folk tale collection you have in Iceland.
Once was a little girl, and her mother gave her a little golden ring.
And she put the gold in a box, and she was told to put a little worm under the gold, and then it would grow.
So she put the worm on the gold, hoping the gold would grow. But the gold didn't grow, just the worm.
It was a giant worm, and she was so afraid, and she threw the box in the lake.
And then it became this monster that attacked farmers and destroyed the harvest for the farmers.
Icelanders asked some Finns to come and help us. They came and they tell that they met this big monster out close to the sea that was like a big seal. And then they met this big skate with this, I think, 9 tails with poison claws. And one of the Finns, he got hurt by this poison claws, so he had to stop. And the name of that place is Finnstaðanes. It means where the Finn stop. So the story lives in the names of the surroundings.
It is said that the Finns, the magicians from North Norway that came here, or from Lapland, that they managed, after a very hard struggle, they managed to chain it down on the head and the tail. So for that reason, you only see the humps coming up.
Well, it has been kept alive because people has been seeing it so often through the centuries.
We have the same descriptions from people that, well, even not have read the tale.
According to legend, an evil worm thrown into the lake slowly grew into a terrifying giant monster. Skuli Gunnarsson is the director of the cultural center of the region. He has dedicated part of his life to preserving the myth of the Lagarfjlotsormurin and cataloging its appearances from oldest to newest.
This is actually the first map that was made of Iceland, where it is, well, a little bit similar to how it really looks like, with all the fjords and the peninsulas. And so there is, about the Lagarfjlot Lake, it's written a kind of a warning that says something like this, that in this lake there is a living creature, a big creature that occurs when some dreadful things are going to happen. A dangerous monster, actually, it says there in the Latin. So it is written there, and it was copied then to other maps of Iceland for centuries.
When walking along the lake, Skuli cannot help but scan the horizon. Many witnesses claim to have seen the monster while they were driving their vehicle. In response, Skuli has installed information signs in areas where the creature has been thought to emerge.
This is actually an information board put up by the the worm association, and it explains a little bit the story behind the worm, but mainly it's pointing out the places where something peculiar has been seen. And we are just taking out few places where we have the descriptions from written papers, from the annals, from the chronicles of some peculiar sightings. Well, we can for example take the triangle with the letter D. That is a sighting from 1965 when the staff here working in the forestry in the Hallonstaðir forest, they saw the worm, or at least they thought they saw the worm, and they actually went all the way. Well, they saw it there, and they went all the way to here where we are standing now, and there it disappeared. It seemed to be swimming. It seemed to be swimming upstream, and there were coming some humps up. But when they got here, at this place where it is a very good panorama over the lake, it disappeared.
These forest workers were under orders from Sigurdur Blöndal, who led the National Forest Office. His daughter Sigrun, a historian, has pulled archives from the time period to try to understand what happened.
I think it was in 1962 that my father was looking out of the window where he lived, and suddenly he saw something rise from the lake, and he called my cousin that was there too, and my brother. They saw something move up and down, humps or something, move up and down for 10 minutes, and they all three watched it through the window very clearly. And my father he's a scientific person. He's very pragmatic. He was a forest warden, so it was very clear to him that it was a worm he saw, and he's never denied that. He's always convinced that he saw the worm.
Ég og Bjarni Ljó og Ásdís vorum á leiðinni hérna upp eftir frá Iceland. Og Ásdís var að koma í heimsókn. Þegar ég kem hérna yfir hæðina fyrir utan, þá sé ég eitthvað á fljótinu og... Stelpur, sjáu þarna, þetta Lagarfjlotsormurin þarna? Segi ég eitthvað í stelpuna, að sjáu þarna Lagarfjlotsormurin?
Ég man ekki alveg, en sko við vorum allan á leiðinni heim hingað og við vorum bara eitthvað svona í bílnum á leiðinni hingað og vorum bara að tala saman og eitthvað sliðis og svo sáum við það. Og við keyrðum svona lengra þangað til að sjá þetta betur. Þannig að ég hélt að þetta væri bara svona ormur svona eins og lifra eða eitthvað neginn. En þú veist, ég sá ekki beint hvernig þetta var, sko. Það var bara eitthvað svona gusa upp á vatninu þegar ég tók þetta upp hana. Við erum bara áfram og horfum á þetta og þannig að þær taka upp, eða Ásdís tekur upp þarna símann og tekur myndir af þessu. Þannig að, þannig að við teljum að við séum Lagarfjlotsorminn þarna. Ég hélt bara strax að það var Lagarfjlotsormurinn, sko. Nei, ekki fyrir en ég setti þetta á YouTube og bara þegar fólk voru að tala með mig þetta. Hvað þetta? Hvað þetta?
In 2012, a creature that looks like a snake is filmed swimming against the current upstream of the lake, just outside the house of a sheep farmer. With the help of his nephew who explained how to work the camera, this farmer managed to capture some very disturbing images.
And the telephone rings, and it's my uncle telling me that the Lagarfjlotsormurin is trying to swim ashore. And I think to myself that this is probably just some debris floating in the river. And I just tell him to take pictures of it. And he wants me to help him to take a video of it. That was how he was able to capture video of the thing.
Hringdi í sjónvarpsfréttamanninn og ætlaði að fá hann til að taka mynd af þessu fyrirbæri, en þá var hann í fríi. Og ég átti myndavél en kunni ekki á hana. Og hann kendi mér í gegnum símann á vélina. Og ég tók mynd af þessu fyrirbæri þarna í ánni, sem að ég tel og mun halda mig við að hafi verið ormurinn eða þá afkvæmi ormsins.
They weren't very interested at first. They asked me to send them the video, but they did not put it on the 7 o'clock news in television. They only put it on the web. And a few days later, the editor of the web, roof.is, calls me up and tells me that the web is almost crashing because thousands of Japanese people are watching the video. And so then we realized that maybe this was something big. And then we did a television news story on the video, but the video and the worm was not the main thing. The main thing was the attention that the video had gotten from Japan and also from millions of people that had watched it on YouTube.
In a few days, millions of users from around the world share the link and look at the images captured by the farmer. But even so, some of the locals remain wary.
The first reaction here in the area was, okay, this is some stunt. They've been planting this there in the river and making this look like a monster or something like that. But I knew, of course, that couldn't be the fact. I mean, he wasn't even able to be ready with a camera.
So after the video got so famous online, camera crews and newsrooms from around the world started sending people to Iceland, and at times it was almost crowded here with reporters, and I was constantly answering questions, helping people out, directing people who to talk to. I was busy because of it, and my uncle as well. He was very happy. Suddenly he was world famous, and the farmers from around, they were envious, and he was the talk of the town.
Já, ég tel með góðri samvisku geta trúað á Lagarfjlotsorminn. Eftir þetta hefur reyndar alltaf trúað á hann. Ég búinn að sjá orminn, taka mynd af honum. Og því ættu menn ekki geta trúað á orminn. Jafnvel þó menn hafi ekki séð hann. Menn trúa nú á Guð. Hafa menn séð hann allir?
A country of legends, Iceland has been the land of elves and trolls since the passage of the Vikings in the Middle Ages. But the Lagarfjlotsormurin is something else.
The legend of the worm is, I think, more alive in our thoughts than maybe the elves and trolls. You look at the elves and trolls more like a folk tale.
Maybe you know the Icelanders, they believe in elves, they believe in trolls, they believe in hidden people and hidden things, and some people, they see it, and they believe that they see something. If it's only in their heads or if they are really seeing something, I can't tell.
But my father has seen the worm in Lagarfjlot, and my brother has seen it, and my neighbor has seen it. So it's you don't. It's hard to deny the legend, the story, when people stand before you, in front of you, and tell you that they have seen the worm.
Já, maður hefur alltaf trúað ormurinn væri hérna, Lagarfjlotsormurin væri í fljótinu. En eftir að sé þetta þá bara rúmar því enn frekar. Hann sé þarna. Já, það hefur breytt kannski þannig að maður samfærist bara frekar.
Mér dreymir ekkert þetta. Ég bara hugsa stundum út í þetta svona og svo horfi ég oftast svona lengra það sem þetta var svona.
In recent years, several theories have been advanced to explain what the dozens of witnesses believe they saw in the Lagarfjlot Lake. Skarfedin Pårðsson is a biologist at the University of Iceland. He studies reindeer populations and is intimately familiar with the lake, which he encounters on a daily basis as part of his research. And although he remains skeptical, his camera is never far away.
So when I drive around the lake, I always have the camera because I'm always thinking about seeing something that could be related to Lagarfjlotsormurin sightings, something like that. But I'm not expecting to see a live creature. Although some people talk about that the creature is somewhere between the real world and the spiritual world. I don't believe that a real creature exists, but I believe that many people, they sense or feel something that they say is a creature. I can't believe it because the creature have to eat, you have to breathe, it have to breathe, and I don't think it's an environment for a creature to do that in this lake. If it's a fish-like creature, it have gills. But if it's something like a reptile, like Nessie in Scotland, Nessie is, people that believe in Nessie believed it was a plesiosaurus, a reptile. But they became extinct 60 million years ago. The oldest rock in Iceland is only about 15 million years old. And the lake is young. So it's difficult to see what kind of creature should live in the lake.
It would seem, therefore, to be impossible for a giant creature to survive in Lagarfjlot Lake. But thanks to the high quantity of sediment and glacial debris found in the lake, conducting a proper survey of what exactly is in the water is difficult.
The water running into it is a glacial water, so there's a lot of floating sediment. The lake go down to more than 100 meters, and the sediment is very thick. Up there, it's 100 meters thick, and in the sediment we have vegetation coming from the woods on the sides of the lake.
This vegetation trapped in sediment ferments in the depths of the lake and can release pockets of gas that then rise to the lake's surface.
So maybe we have some small earthquake or something happen, and the bubble goes up, and then they look like a humpback on the water.
Gas sometimes comes up from the bottom of the lake like it's erupting. Gas can erupt from the bottom of the lake, so it looks like something is rising from the lake, but it's actually just air and leaves and debris.
If you go back, I think some 400 or 500 years ago, narrow-minded public people, when they see something strange, like in this lake, the worm is not the only creature here. There's a big seal monster out there. And then we have a skate, the fish, with tails. And on the tails we have a poison claws. And I think it's not hard to imagine that maybe a walrus visit this place out there. And some local people that had never heard about walrus saw something with big teeth and they tell others and so on, and it changed to a monster.
But it's also in our subconsciousness, I would say, because we have, just as in other places where you have some kinds of tales and some mysterious things, you have these taboos, usually. One thing that if you go to a person here in the region and you ask, can I have a trout from the lake? Or you will probably get the answer, no, the trout from this Lagarfjlot lake, it's unedible. It's so bad tasting, and so you don't want that. But that is not the fact. I mean, the trout from the lake, the meat of the trout is a little bit lighter because of the color of the lake, but it's not bad fish to eat. And then the other thing is that why are no boats on the lake? You haven't seen any boats on the lake. Then you get the explanation, oh, the waves of the lake, they are extremely sharp. They are much sharper on this lake than any other lake you can find. So you shouldn't go out on a boat to this lake.
I think that in Japan, as in Iceland, there are a lot of myths. And I believe that when you have a monster video, you have to have a myth to go along with it. And here, that happened, and I think that explains why this video that Hjörtur captured has gotten so much attention, international attention, and maybe especially from Japan, because they have similar myths. At some point, a TV crew came in from the United States, and they did all sorts of tests. I think that the tests that the American crew made don't prove that the video that Hjörtur took is fake. It only proves that debris floating in the river can look like a monster is swimming, but that doesn't tell us anything about what Hjörtur actually captured on his film.
And what about the strange phenomenon captured on camera in Birgir Brageson's car?
The video that the girl shot of some phenomenon, something happening on the lake, I think it's just some weather phenomenon. It's a little cyclop going over the water. We see it inland where it moves over land, taking up dust, and so I think we have a natural explanation.
I believe that we have two types of worms in the lake. There's the old 600 or 700 year old giant monster that might be living there, but I doubt it. And then there is the undiscovered organism. I don't believe in the 600 or 700 year giant monster, but I don't want to rule out that there might be an undiscovered life form living in the silt at the bottom of the lake.
Ultimately, until proof of Lagarfjlotsormurin's existence is produced, strange phenomena observed on the lake will continue to fuel belief in the legends of this rich region of Iceland. The children of the city of Eyjólfsstaður have a particularly fertile imagination. How could it be otherwise, given that their school is located just across from Lake Lagarfjlot?
I think young children, they believe very clearly in it. They absolutely believe that the worm is alive. And I asked my son, that is 8 years old, do you believe in the worm? Yes, absolutely, I believe in it. I know it exists, and he described it for me, what it looked like. So it's very, very clear in his mind.
It's important because it's part of the community and it's part of our history, and it's linked with the imagination of the kids. When they do arts or drawings, something like that, they often draw the worm, and it helps them with their imagination, and it comes out in that way. And we use the saga when we teach them about the area, history of the area.
It starts with there was a little girl, and her mother gave her a little gold ring. She opened the box and she was very afraid. Then the worm began to grow, and he grew bigger and bigger. Here he threw the box in the lake. And now here, this is for the end of the story.
I think it's very important because when I was a child, I was born here in the neighborhood. We really believed there were monsters in the lake. And we always were beware of it, and it was like part of the nature and very exciting. We are trying to keep it alive because, of course, it's nice to have a monster because today it's not eating people anymore. So you don't need to be afraid of it.
This thing is made from clay, and this is special for me because my daughter was very young. She was in 2nd class, and she decided to make Lagarfjlotsorm, and I did not tell her to make Lagarfjlotsorm. It was her decision. It's not big deal. It's not big deal. There are trees here around us, and it's also not big deal. There's mountain and there's lake and there are houses and we have this environment, and we have also this creature in the lake, and it's not big deal. It's just a common thing in our life.
The Lagarfjlotsormurin plays an important role in the cultural and folk identity of this part of the country, where residents treat the mythical creature with great respect. There is no talk here of making a promotional or commercial effigy to attract tourists.
Main reason I think Icelandic people come to visit Fljótsdalshérað is it's so green. We have the trees here that most part of Iceland, they don't have as much trees as we do here. People love to visit because it's a great destination for families, and it has a beautiful scenery. People travel to the area. They do know that the lake is home of the Lagarfjlotsormurin because it's a really popular children's story, and probably most of Icelandic people have heard the story at some point in their life.
And we use it as our symbol for the municipality. And that tells us how important he is for us. And you also see artworks, several artworks in Eylstad and this area that are formed as a worm.
The poem is about the Lagarfjlotsormurin. It's tied to Húsatangi over there where the poem lived. So it was a very real thing to him, or at least he think a lot about it. And my daughter took this poem and made a tune and played it on a piano, and my wife and second daughter performed it in the church in Eylstad last year. I think it's just an indication of that everybody knows about the worm. Everybody looks at the lake when they're driving around it, hoping to see something or expecting. So the worm is very much alive today.
Despite its seclusion, the valley in Iceland's eastern region attracts more and more tourists each year. The city of Eyjólfsstaður is essential since it is the only major metropolitan area around the lake. And it could be that the images of the giant worm circulated on social networks partly explain the recent increase in the number of visitors.
Tourists are coming to Iceland mainly because of the nature. That is the statistics says so. And then the second thing is the culture and heritage. But people here, I think they realize that, okay, maybe people are more interested in something like our worm monster than we thought, actually.
Meet the Locals is a program that we are doing, Tanni Travel, with local people in East Iceland, where we invite people to come as guests and saying goodbye as friends. We invite people to local homes where they can either have dinner or coffee and a chat with local people how it is to live here in the area. And our tour around the lake, life around the monster lake, offers you to see the monster if you're lucky or not lucky, and to meet local people and ask them by yourself how it is to live by the lake.
Eyjólfsstaður is also the site of several annual festivals celebrating the cultural heritage of eastern Iceland. The possible existence of a strange creature in Lake Lagarfjlot provides a pretext to hold the region's most important annual festival, Ormteiti, which opens with a big party. Each August, visitors from across the country come to attend the parades, concerts, and cultural events that animate the city for an entire week. Whatever reason brings you to this unique area, make sure to always have a camera on hand.
The tourists that visit the lake area through us are mostly from the UK and America. But we also have a lot of people from Germany. And we get many requests from both Canada, we've had requests from Mexico, Australia.
Nei, ég hef aldrei séð skrímslið og ekkert sem að tengist því annað en þetta. En frá því ég kom hérna fyrir meira en hálfri öld, þá hef ég oft heyrt talað skrímslið. Ég hef lesið margar gamlar sögur skrímslið.
Ormurinn, hann menningarsögulegt fyrirbæri hér slóðir. Og ég held að trúi margir, flest allir héraðsbúar, að ormurinn sé til.
When you come to the lake area here, or the lake district here, it's I think you should always be aware that there might be something moving under the surface of the lake, and just very, very occasionally it occurs above the surface. So you should always have your camera ready.